James, how the devil
Hello,
are you?
I'm all right, mate. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
Good.
So we missed you on the WhatsApp call yesterday. So I don't know what you think about any of the fights. So this will work.
Indeed, yeah, it will. It will.
But how are you doing anyhow? Before we get to that, how's life treating you?
Life's treating me all right, mate. The double chin is getting a little bit more prominent. Um, like Porky's Corner. I think I'm Porky. You know what I mean? But I don't know. We'll get back on it. We'll get back on it. I just like food. Dieting is not my forte, really. So, it's a bit difficult to keep up the dieting. But other than that, I'm all right. I caught up with the boxing, and yeah, I've got a lot to say. So let's get cracking.
Let's get cracking. I thought maybe we can run this one for 25 minutes or so, and then we can move to a part two.
Yeah,
Well, it's good to see you. Anyhow, we did miss you on the WhatsApp group yesterday.
I know.
Andy was on, Jerry was on, myself, and we were, just sort of going back and forth a little bit there. But let's start with Delicious Orie and his much heralded debut. What did you think of that?
Very, very underwhelming. It gives me when I'm looking at all these Olympians. I mean, Joe Joyce was an Olympian, wasn't he?
Yeah.
David Price. Well, I think David Price came before. Yeah, David Price did come before Joshua. Um, it gives me more respect for Joshua, really, because he did. Joshua grabbed the Olympian tag, even though I don't think he deserved the gold medal. I've been quite vociferous about that in my criticism of Joshua in the past. I don't believe he deserved the gold medal, but when he turned pro, he tore through the sort of lower echelons of the professional ranks in a manner that sort of you know an Olympian heavyweight is supposed to do. You know what I mean? He looked impressive. He looked like a destroyer, the sort of man that, marketing, well, a marketer's dream, basically. Someone like Eddie Hearn, who is a brilliant salesman. He didn't really need to do much with Joshua, did he? Because it was all there. The plasticine was already molded, wasn't it? He didn't need to do anything with him.
Yeah,
When
I
you're
mean,
looking at sort of, go on, sorry, Bob.
no, no, no. At one time, an Olympic gold medalist, with some exceptions, but an Olympic gold medalist was somebody to reckon with. Like, Ali won a gold medal, Frazier won a gold medal, Foreman won the gold medal. I mean, even Spinks won the gold medal, right? I mean,
Mm.
but now it appears to be that an Olympic medal doesn't necessarily translate into skills that you're going to be able to bring to the professional game. There were a number of Olympians that were fighting yesterday, and many of whom I thought, well, I was surprised that they didn't seem to have that skill level that I've come to expect from Olympic medalists, not necessarily gold medal winners, but Olympic medalists.
That je ne sais quoi. It's like Joshua, he tore through. He did. He tore through the ranks at the lower level, and I think the big thing with Joshua when Joshua turned over was the fact that he managed to stop someone like Kevin Johnson,
Yeah.
who, yeah, amongst my friends and people I speak boxing with, one of my friends had Kevin Johnson. Like his nickname's Kingpin, isn't it?
Hmm.
But he become that much that little of a threat as he was sort of aging, that my friend laughably called him safety pin rather than kingpin. But he was very durable, and Joshua managed to stop him. And then you had Daniel Dubois, who was lauded. All right, he wasn't an Olympian, but he was lauded as a very, very good amateur. And he laboured to a points win against someone like Kevin Johnson. What I'm looking for, particularly with my heavyweights, if they've been in an Olympic squad, I want them to be that destroyer, that
Yeah.
absolute, you know, shock value.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah,
Absolutely.
KOs, and Ori just didn't. Ori didn't look capable of that last night. He looked very sort of laboured.
Yeah.
There was a looseness about him. I mean, obviously it's a debut, isn't it, Bob? So I can't be too critical. You know, he's turning over. He was obviously keen to, you know, get the debut under his belt. But yeah, I wasn't that impressed.
Well, what I wasn't impressed with was the quality of opposition. So the big Bosnian had an upside down record. Now I understand that on your debut you might not necessarily want to go in against a top level opponent, but this Bosnian fellow, whose name I've forgotten, so if you're a
Mm.
fan of the big Bosnian, I apologize to anybody that's listening, but I no disrespect, I've just forgotten his name. But to be honest, he looked like he was, just come off a minicab shift, and he was going to have a kebab before his next shift. Like he wasn't there to give any sort of, well, he wasn't really, to be perfectly
Resistance.
honest, there to provide anything other than a mobile punching bag. And I thought
Yeah,
Delicious Ori over the 4 rounds labored. Was not what I was expecting at all. I was expecting
no,
something much, much, much better.
exactly. Particularly if your name's, you know, I know it's not holding a name, is it? But if your name's Delicious, you're going to be prominent, like Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury turning pro with a name like Tyson Fury. You know, he's already got the cameras sort of on him, sort of
Hmm.
thing. So give him something to write about as well as the pictures, you know. And yeah, he just wasn't doing that. And as you say, the you know, if a Albanian or Bosnian taxi driver turns up and he's not hitting you back, perfect opportunity to land one on the chin. I think it was Henry Cooper that once said, you know, you only need to be about 16 stone,
Oh yeah,
and you can knock anybody out. So go out there and do it, Delicious or
yeah. Well,
Del Boy. I don't know if I feel comfortable calling a man Delicious, but maybe call him Del Boy. You
yeah.
know.
Well, I mean, against that level of opposition, you would have honestly expected him to come out and just blitz the guy by the second round. Like you have a look at him
Yeah,
in the first round, you realize, look, the guy I was supposed to fight hasn't shown up. They've sent this taxi driver in. I'm just going to knock him out now, and then I'm going to go home. I'm not paid for overtime, but
yeah,
he labored. Um, I mean, it was clear he was going to win, but it
yeah.
was yeah, I was very unimpressed, and maybe because my expectations were high. Um, and there was much made about the fact that Queensbury had signed him. He was toying with the idea of going to the WWE as a wrestler, but
Mm,
Queensbury, and I'm thinking, well, maybe Queensbury should have let him go to the WWE. He looks the
maybe
part,
so.
but he
Yeah,
um, he struggled with this fellow, and putting him in with a live dog, I think he might have lost his debut. To be honest with you.
yeah. I would say so. Someone who's a bit more resistant. But I mean, we are, and you're right in what you're saying, Bob, in your assessment. You know, where you're talking about records, and you know his record wasn't great. The opponent, we're now sort of entering an era where it's a bit more. You're expected to fight live dogs, aren't you? A
Well,
lot more. Yeah, a lot more than we used to. You know, so
yeah, I mean,
yeah,
especially as this guy was an Olympian, I expect him to come in at a higher level. I expect him to come
certainly.
in against a competent journeyman who's going to give him some rounds and and give him an opportunity to showcase his talents.
Or
But
not even a journeyman. Like Joe Joyce came in as a silver medalist, and in his first, I think it was his first fight, he fought quite a capable British level operator called Ian Lewison, and he beat him.
Mhm.
You
Yeah,
know, he was fast tracked. So yeah, let's see it happen.
yeah, because the Olympic pedigree should allow you to skip a couple of rungs on the ladder, right? I mean,
Certainly.
it's not like you've come up without going through the Olympic level. So, anyways, disappointing for me. Um, what did you think to the I almost feel like washing my mouth out as I say it. The British
Or,
Heavyweight Championship Lonsdale belt match.
it showed the vast sort of gulf in quality between British level and everyone else, really. Uh, I would say European level in terms of Agit Kabayel and those just below the. Well, it is European level, isn't it? Because Agit Kabayel's German. It showed that vast sort of skipping quality between those levels. It wasn't great to watch. The refereeing was bad again. There's just this refereeing. I just don't understand it. He called for a break and then basically allowed the fight to go on after that shot. That saw TKV on his ass, and the fight was subsequently over. But like a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about bad refereeing, and there's just no consistency, is there, Bob? And
Well,
you can't be having that for a British heavyweight title fight. There's got to be integrity. That Lonsdale belt is one of the most sought after in the world, and we can't have crap like this.
well, I was to say I was disappointed would be a gross, understatement. Um, I was expecting more. As you know, I grew up with the British Heavyweight Championship as being a very, very prestigious title to aim for.
Yep.
It was a title that was held by Henry Cooper for many, many years during my childhood and into my teens. People like Joe Erskine, Jack Bodell, Joe Bugner, Brian London, they were all competing for this belt. And later on, I mean, you've got Frank Bruno, you've got Lennox Lewis, you've
Mm,
got it was, in my mind, there used to be, you had your world title there, you had your European championship there, and your British title was pretty much equivalent. They used to call it, British and Empire, right? And then it was the British and
yeah.
Commonwealth. Um,
Commonwealth. Yeah.
you'd be you'd be a top kind of contender. So, like when Fabio Wardley was holding the British title, I thought I had a sense of pride, to be honest, because okay, he might not be elite, he might be a shade below world level, but you can't be dismissing him. But with
No,
TKV and
exactly.
Adelaide, I thought honestly, I thought they should be right. They should be fighting for a regional belt, or possibly like if it had been Adelaide
English,
against TKV for the English Championship, then I would have
English,
thought,
yeah.
well, okay. But I didn't see in either of them British heavyweight champion.
But then it begs the question, doesn't it, Bob? Because we're talking about the quality of the championship class at the moment. Who would you really put up in that British level? All right, we can turn around and say, I believe that Moses Atalma, who everyone's raving about at the moment, I believe he's got the quality to win a British title now.
Oh
But
yes,
the thing is, yeah, but the thing is, he could be British champion, but you have to like for it to be taken really, really seriously again as a belt. You have to put someone else in there of equal footing. Otherwise, it just becomes a bit of a joke. And there's not really many around the British scene at the moment who are of equal footing to Moses Atalma. So, it just seems like they were crowbarred into this position.
yeah.
Like, oh yeah, let's just give them the belt. Do you know what I mean? And then we'll go from there.
Well, I
I'd
was
like to see Atalma just clear up. Sorry, Bob.
no, yeah, I was going to agree with you. Like I'm one of those people that was disappointed to see Fabio Wardley relinquish the belt. Now, I
Mm,
understand why he did. I understand the money and I understand the business reasoning. But I just thought it was disappointing to see a guy like Fabio, who I'm very fond of, relinquish the British Heavyweight Championship. Because, like I say, I'm probably stuck in the past when I think of the British Heavyweight Champion. That's a There should be a swagger attached to that. The British Heavyweight Champion should walk into a pub and the pub should sort of, drop the volume down. Oh, there's the British Heavyweight Champion over there.
yeah,
And
prestige.
kids should be
Yeah,
going and asking for autographs if that's still a thing. I don't even know if that's a thing anymore.
yeah.
But yeah. So when he vacated it, there seemed to be this vacuum, and You could make a case for Adeleye, but TKV I thought was um, not really deserving of a shot, and yet on the night I thought TKV was doing the better work. To be honest with you,
He was, and he got hard done by. I'm not saying that he would have come back from that. The ending, the drubbing that he got in the end. But we seem to be talking about refereeing far too much recently, and the big rule is you can't hit on the break,
yeah.
and he's hit on the break, and then TKV ended up on his backside. So
Well,
I think there should be a rematch there, personally.
well, to be honest, I mean there are several outcomes that you could not have truly spoken about in argument. Like, arguably, David Adeleye could have been disqualified, which would have been harsh because I don't think it was David Adelaye's fault.
No.
The way I saw this, and Andy and I from Andy's Cavern, and if you haven't subscribed to Andy's Cavern, people, you should subscribe to Andy's Cavern. Andy and I were talking at the time. We had the volume down on, and we were just chatting our way through it. And Andy had just finished saying that the referee is a pest. And I said, "Yeah, he's like an old woman. He's in there and he's interfering." And the referee, shouted break, break, and pulled TKV's hand away. He did not have proper control of the fights, and so then Adeleye popped him. Now, you could have DQ'd Adeleye. You could also have said, okay, well, look, give TKV 5 minutes. 5 minutes to recover. Adeleye, go stand in a neutral corner, hang your head in shame. Maybe deduct a point if you wanted to be mean, but give TKV a full 5 minutes to recover. Because, as you know, once you break, you step back, you relax, and then you're not seeing a punch, you're not expecting a punch. Your neck is
No,
intense for
certainly
it.
not.
It's one of the most
You're not gonna,
dangerous things that can happen. And
exactly. You're not protecting yourself, are you?
yeah, so he was cold cocked, really, and then to give him
Yeah.
an 8 count and then to expect him to carry on was grossly unfair. There was no way TKV could recover it at that time. So, I mean, the British Boxing Board of Control could declare it a no contest, in my view,
They won't.
or they could
They
order.
won't, though, will they?
No, they won't because they're
No.
gutless pricks. But
Yeah, basically.
yeah.
I think what I think where he failed the referee was it Mark Lyson, the referee.
I can't
I
remember, to be
believe it.
honest.
I believe it was. Like he's not the biggest of lads, but I think the referee in a heavyweight title fight in particular should be getting between the fighters, and there wasn't enough of that. I think that would have stopped the hitting on the break because then the two fighters are more conscious. Like the referee stood in the middle. Oh, I've got to watch what I'm doing here. I can't hit the referee. There wasn't any of that. He's sort of on the outside, hovering around, as you mentioned before, like a little flyer that the fighters just want to swat away. No, like get in the middle. It doesn't matter how big they are. You need to command respect. You used to see Mills Lane do it all the time.
Yeah,
A small guy, but he had that respect.
you don't necessarily have to be a big man, but you've got to have a big presence. Like
commanding,
um
certainly.
the ref was Ron Kearney.
Right, okay. I don't know where I got my license from. I must have just thought, oh yeah, he looked like him. Maybe not.
Yeah, Ron Kearney, Kearney. I'm just reading it from BoxRec now. But yeah,
Right.
he didn't have control of the fight, and I don't really blame David Adeleye, to be honest. I mean,
No,
this was fully, in my view, a refereeing error that could have cost TKV a very, very, very serious injury.
certainly.
It might have cost him the fight, and it could have cost Adeleye the loss by a DQ. I mean, there's all sorts of negative things that could flow from this, but the problem was the referee, and this is where we've seen this we've seen this in too many fights now. We seem to always be talking about this bad refereeing, and in this case, it sends a bad message. So if you're the next TKV, and the ref tells you break, break, and grabs your arm, you might be reluctant to do so because you don't want to be cold cocked.
Yeah, exactly. It's Britain as well, isn't it? Germany used to be the place for questionable officialdom, but nowadays, that Britain, if we're not talking about the referees, we're talking about the judges. There
Yeah.
needs to be a real sit down where they're looking at the rules, they're looking at uniform criteria, and that's the key word, uniform. Let's keep it all on a level where nothing can be argued. There's not going to be any controversy because it's written in black and white and you're all going to follow it. If you don't follow it, there's a penalty. You're not refereeing a world title fight. You're not refereeing a British title fight. You're not doing this. You're not doing that. It needs to be uniform criteria, and we're just not seeing that because, again, you said about the British Boxing Board of Control being pricks. They are gutless pricks. They're toothless tigers. They can't really impose laws because anybody who bites back, they crap themselves. So
Yeah, and the referee apparently was denying when challenged by, I guess it was Ben Davidson. He was denying that he'd said break, break, but it's there for us all to hear and to see, right?
exactly, yeah.
We've got good camera work these days and good sound technology these days. It was indisputable. I would like to see an appeal launched, not to punish David Adeleye. Like I say, I find it hard to blame David Adeleye, but I would like to
Yeah,
see. I would like to see some. Honestly, what I would like to see is some penalty imposed upon the referee. Like
yeah,
you're not allowed to referee a fight of this level anymore.
yeah.
So
Until you've gone through retraining or something.
yeah, but overall, I thought the fight was very. It was underwhelming. You know,
Lackluster, yeah.
I went back this morning and I looked at some previous British champions and just little clips of their fights, and the overall quality was better. I mean,
Mm,
I'm sure we could find a fight that wasn't, but but the overall quality was better, and yeah, I don't know. It's disappointing when you see that this was for a Lonsdale belt.
I mean, you could state, and it brings a whole new argument into the equation. Are the quality of boxers as good as they were in yesteryear? But I mean, we're going down another path there, aren't we? All?
You probably already know my answer, right? You know, I'm a fan of
No, yeah, exactly.
old time boxing, right? So,
I'm, I'm
um,
I'm throwing a stone at a wasp's nest here, aren't I? It's not
I,
definitely.
as far as I'm concerned, great boxing ended by the time that Lennox Lewis retired, so to speak. But
Yeah,
it's yeah, that's not entirely fair. But it's, as you know, my prejudices are that the further back we go, the better they were, kind of thing. But
yeah. I wouldn't disagree with you. But I mean, that's a subject I could talk all day about and probably get shouted at about as well. So.
well, I've seen some comments on my top 10 heavyweights of all time that have been, put it this way, people disagree with me, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah, I've
uh,
heard.
and that's fine. Tomorrow morning, I've UK time. I've got my 10 best middleweights of all time going out. So that's probably going
Yeah.
to upset more people. And it
If
seems
you've
that
not got if you've not got Hagler at number one, Bob, I'm going to be upset. I'm going to be honest with you. But
well,
I mean,
I'm afraid you're going to be upset with me. he's in
right, all
the,
right. If we're
he's
not
in
pulling out, we're friends.
he's in the top five. How about that?
Good, good, good man. That's serviceable, definitely.
Okay, yeah, I was a big fan of Marvelous Marvin Hagler. Um,
Yeah,
I lost a lot of money when he fought Sugar Ray Leonard, and I still believe to this day that he beat Sugar Ray Leonard.
yeah. I can't stand Sugar Ray Leonard. I find him very smarmy, but I actually had I've watched the fight 2 or 3 times, and I had Leonard winning by 2 points. But
Oh, you did?
this is the
Okay.
thing. Yeah,
Maybe
this is
I'm.
the thing, though, isn't it? It's what you like, and it
Yeah.
shouldn't be about what you like in boxing, should it? There should be set criteria. So, you
Well,
know,
it probably won't come as a surprise to you that my top middleweight of all time is Sugar Ray Robinson. So
oh no, well, yeah, that is absolutely fine. I'm not going to be upset with you about that. To
yeah,
be fair,
I'm sure that some
fine,
people
fine.
will. I've had people tell me that Sugar Ray Robinson wasn't that good at all, and yeah, that's to
Yeah,
me that's comedic when people say that. I mean, I don't mind if you want to say Harry Greb was the best ever. That's totally fine. But to say that Sugar Ray Robinson wasn't very good, then hey, it's your credibility, right?
yeah. Thing is about Harry Greb is there wasn't any footage of him.
Yeah,
But if you are a historian, the fact that he beat Gene Tunney is quite impressive, isn't it? Really.
yeah, and his
So
1919 year alone, where he had 45 fights with 0 losses in one
yeah,
year. And he was
yeah.
one-eyed as well. Like, it's very, very hard to argue against putting Greb somewhere near the top of whatever list you want to come up with, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. He was just the ultimate hard man, wasn't he? So,
Yeah.
yeah, when you mention things like that, Bob, it is hard to be annoyed with your selections because if you've got the likes of Harry Greb at the top end, I'd put Jake LaMotta up there as well, to be honest. But I'll look forward to your list. I'll
Yeah,
look forward to your list.
Jake LaMotta's on my list, but he's a little bit lower down. You know,
Yeah,
the movie that I hate, the boxing movie that I hate, it's actually a really good movie, but I hate it, is Raging Bull because of the
you hate it.
6 times that LaMotta fought Sugar Ray, they make a movie about the one time that he beat Sugar Ray.
Yeah, I know. It's a very it's the sort of film as well. I love it because I love Robert De Niro. I think he's an absolute maestro. But it's very dark and gritty. You sort of almost feel dirty when you've watched
Yeah.
it
It
because
is
it's like,
it's an excellent movie. It really it is.
yeah,
It's just that I think it's unfair because I would have preferred them to make one about, well, any of the other five, really. Um,
yeah, yeah.
shall we?
I don't
I see
blame
that
you.
I see our timer there in the top corner. Shall we? Shall we move to our next session?
Yeah, certainly,
Oh,
certainly.
okay.
Reconvene. I'll see you in a bit, Bob.
I will. I'll log right. Well, just give me 2 minutes to go to the
Yeah,
washroom, and then I'll log on to this onto part two.
no problem. See you soon, Bob. All right,
Okay.
bye.
Cheers. Okay, folks, please join us on part two. That's James of Porky's Corner alumni or alumnus, whatever the word is. We'll be on again for part two. Cheers.